it's Gabi, Koyenov, and I am very excited to share this video with you. This video is going to be about Orthodox Jewish dating, and more specifically, actually, the Shidduch system. You are going to know what that is by the end of this episode. Just to give a brief outline of this video, what I want to do is explain what the Shidduch system is, who uses it, some alternate ways of dating within the community, the pros, the cons, and lastly, my experience with the Shidduch system. So this is obviously a jam-packed video. The reason I actually want to make this video is because, first of all, I think it's just a cool video and a cool topic, and a lot of people might find it very interesting. But second of all, and actually the more important reason, is because most of my viewers are going to be Orthodox Jews, and I want my video to actually have some sort of impact and meaning, and I actually want to make a difference here. And the thing is that I decided not to put any stock footage in this video because I don't want to give an excuse to anyone to not watch my video. I think that the things that I'm going to talk about, especially from my own experience, are important, and they're things that I think we should all be taking into account, and like our community and mindset and everything should really change and shift and, you know, alter to cater to more people ultimately. Okay, so first, to explain the Shidduch system and why it's used. The Shidduch system is basically a way of dating for Orthodox Jews, more, I guess, to the center and to the right of the center, in which it's basically matchmaking. And how it works is there are these people called Shadchan, which mean matchmakers. And they basically will know a bunch of people, right? And in theory, what's going to happen is when you are ready to start dating to get married, you are going to go to this matchmaker and you're going to describe yourself to this person and what you're looking for. Now, you will put together a resume, and what the resume basically discloses is just basic information about you, like how to reach you or whatever, your height, and just some basic family info, your siblings, who they're married to, what they're doing, if you've graduated school or if you're in yeshiva or just in high school. The resume is of your basic background and family background. And then you include references. Now, to the right of the community, that's where it ends. You know, they don't necessarily add more. And then, you know, a lot of people add a paragraph describing themselves and then a paragraph of what they're looking for. And some people do pictures, some people don't. The right of the community does not do pictures, but the left of the community and probably even most of the center do pictures, meaning like they will just send one picture of themselves. Usually, the guy will get the girl's resume first, and he will look into her and decide if he wants to go out with her. Then if he says yes, she then looks into him and decides if she wants to go out with him. Now, the reason they give the guy the girl's resume first is because the thought process is that a girl is more sensitive to a rejection than a guy would be. And therefore, if you give the girl the guy's resume first and she looks into him, decides she wants to go out with him, and then he looks into her and decides he doesn't want to go out with her, she's going to be more hurt by that rejection than a guy would be if he gave the yes first and then she gives a no. You know, of course, it would still be painful for the guy, but I guess he would tolerate it better. I don't know. I mean, in my personal opinion, it's a little bit ridiculous, but I understand the logic. The reason for this type of system is because it's very marriage focused. In Judaism, romantic relationship between anybody that is not your wife is considered like inappropriate and out of bounds. And the whole purpose of dating is to basically find your soulmate or your basheret, right? So like in Judaism, we believe that there are soulmates and there is a match that is for you. And this system is a very hyper-focused way of just finding somebody that could fit that potential for you and you meeting that person as efficiently as possible. So in theory, if you go out with a girl and you already know you're not going to marry her, past date 3 for sure, or past date 4, like you should already like break it off. If you know for a fact even past date 1, people will tell you, okay, maybe be open-minded and give it a second chance. But if you know for whatever reason, you know, this girl is just simply not for you, and vice versa as well, you break it off and it's on to the next one. And the reason for that, like I said, is because it's just very marriage-minded. We're not trying to waste anybody's time, and that's how it is. Okay, so then what basically happens is after you give this Shadchan your resume, so I'm going to talk from my perspective as a guy, so a Shadchan will then send me a resume of a girl. Some Shadchanim just send one resume at a time. Other Shadchanim will send like many ideas all at once. And then you kind of like will call references and do research and find out if this girl makes sense for you based on what you're looking for and kind of how you want to live your life. And I'm going to get into some key factors that people will look into. And basically, if you decide that the girl is not for you, you tell the Shadchan it's not for you, and then she or he will adjust the kind of options they're sending you. And then if the option is for you, you tell the Shadchan, and then the Shadchan will send your resume to the girl that you thought was a good idea. Now, the girl looks into you in a similar fashion, and then if she decides she wants to go out with you, she will tell the Shadchan. If not, then the Shadchan will get back to you and say no. But if she decides she wants to go out with you, then you guys basically arrange a date through the Shadchan. Now, this is actually big. All these dates actually happen communicating through the Shadchan. So it's not like if she says yes and you say yes, the Shadchan will then give you her number. Now, in some cases that does happen, definitely in more left-wing parts of the communities, it's more likely that, especially if both the guy and the girl just feel comfortable exchanging numbers like that, then that's what they'll do. But otherwise, there is a matchmaker. And this Shadchan, this matchmaker, will now communicate between the two of you. So now you say, okay, I was thinking about picking her up at her house and going to XYZ restaurant, or a lot of people do lounges, or whatever activity you decide planned. And then the Shadchan will then communicate that to the girl, and the girl will either confirm that that works for her or not. And basically, it's like that. It's through the middleman. Then you go on this date, and normally a date will last like 3 hours or whatever, 3 hours time spent together, more or less. Once the date is up, you will not tell her, and she will not tell you on the spot, I don't want to see you again, or I want to do this again. No, what happens is you tell the Shadchan afterwards whether you want to see each other again or not. And if both of you agree, the Shadchan will say okay, but if not, then, the Shadchan will break the news to you. It's called dropping the Shadchan, when basically the guy and girl exchange numbers and they feel comfortable communicating with each other without the Shadchan. I don't know, everyone takes their time. Some people never have a Shadchan as a middleman to begin with. That's kind of unusual. People will usually use a Shadchan for like the first 3 to 4 dates, let's say, and then they'll drop the Shadchan. And some people like using the Shadchan for even longer, they'll even pass their 8th get-together, let's say they're still using a Shadchan, but that's unusual as well. Now, here's the thing. Like we said, the Shidduch system, it's very marriage-focused, and there is no physical touch at all. That's not considered appropriate. Both the guy and the girl will feel incredibly uncomfortable if one of them had made a physical move on the other. It would be totally out of bounds and not called for, and it would get pretty awkward. The idea while you guys are dating is to figure out whether it makes sense for the two of you to be married. Things that people are thinking about are hashkafa. So in my video on yeshivish Judaism, I kind of explained what hashkafa was briefly, but just to reinstate that, hashkafa means philosophy. So you want to make sure that you guys have the same philosophical orientation and the same direction in how you want to raise your kids, and just like where you want to live, for example. Are you guys both on the same page? Do you both want to live in a city? Do you both want to live in a suburb? Move to another country? All those things are discussed, not necessarily on the first date. The first date is just about getting to know each other. Some people might be a little more forward than others and discuss topics, but often that's considered like intense. You wouldn't talk about like real topics until like a 3rd or 4th meeting. And like you could casually bring up, oh, so where do you want to live? Like even in a first date. But topics like, I don't know, like how to raise kids or whatever, that's not a first date kind of topic. But everyone's different, to each their own. I'm just saying like the general thought process is like, okay, first few dates is just getting to know each other, and then after like let's say the 3rd date or something, people start getting a little bit more personal and a little bit more talking about their personal philosophies and in a much more real matter to see if you guys are compatible. Ultimately, it's like everyone gets engaged at like different rates. Some people will know after their 6th date, they're like, yeah, I know I want to marry this person for sure. And then maybe they'll propose by like their 9th if they feel comfortable, and maybe even earlier. And then some people, it takes a little while longer to know. But if you went out with a girl 20 times, that's considered a lot in the Shidduch system. Definitely more to the left of the community, 20 may be like more of like that's like maybe enough, not necessarily like a lot. But if you're more to the right of the community, if you've been out with a girl 20 times, that's considered a ton of times. Then again, a person that's been out with a girl 20 times might feel a lot of pressure from their family to get married to that person, but everyone really has to make their own decision. To whom you're going to get married to is probably the biggest decision you'll ever make in your entire life, like seriously. Some people want to take more time with it, some people feel more confident earlier on. And I don't know, it's just, the thing is like, everyone does it, and it's just, this is the stage of life that you're in. You know, you're 25, 26, and even 24, whatever. Friends are getting married around you. You know, your family is starting to push you. The community, it's just built in a way where once you're already in your kind of like mid-20s, and even earlier for girls, this is the next stage of life. You know what I mean? Some guys do date even earlier than 24. You know, some guys start dating 21, 22, 23. 21, 22 is a bit more unusual, but it's done, and it's like to each their own. You know, if a guy really feels like he's ready and he has an ability to support himself, or he knows he wants to marry a girl that's older and already has a job so that she can do the supporting for a time, that's kind of how the community operates. And it's very marriage focused, and the community helps with the marriages. Parents are kind of expected to pitch in, and it's just, this is how the community operates. To a foreign viewer who's maybe living a secular life and not even thinking about marriage when they're 26 and just thinking about living life and doing whatever, it sounds like the most bizarre thing. But this is the community, and this is what everyone does. And people actually, like, it's not just there's a pressure to do it. People want to get married. Like, for instance, I'm 25 already, and you know, in theory, like, that's so young. It's like 25, like, who wants to get married at 25? That sounds like the end of the world. But I actually feel a deep desire to actually want to get married, because, like, this is the next stage within the community that I'm in. And it's like searching for something real, being marriage-minded, being like, you know, looking for a real type of relationship, and just going into the next stage of my life, doing what I think I need to do. It just involves being married right now. And it's actually painful for, I can speak for myself, that it is actually painful being single at times. You know, at times I definitely do enjoy being single, but it's like, there is no middle ground. You have to get married. There's no other way to experience companionship with a woman if you're not married. So it's just, in a sense, the community is like restrictive in that way. People in the community don't view that as restricting necessarily. I'm sure there are those that do, but it's like for the most part, like, from my understanding, people don't want to fool around. You know what I mean? People actually just want to get married and have a what they consider to be a more wholesome kind of relationship. And I think even like the idea of some more like yeshivish people, like even the idea of having a relationship without being married is like, it would be like probably incredibly bizarre. So that's how I would imagine most people would see it. Anyways, so who uses the Shidduch system? Basically everyone in the yeshivish world uses the Shidduch system pretty much exclusively. There are some exceptions, and there are some other types of systems that are used, and I'll go into it briefly, but the Shidduch system is pretty much what's used exclusively by the yeshivish community. Now, the modern Orthodox community also use the Shidduch system. However, they will also branch out. Like, for many modern Orthodox people, they're totally comfortable meeting a girl in college, going to a Shabbos meal and meeting a girl, and like, that's totally normal. They don't have to use the Shidduch system at all. Traditional Jews, the same thing. Like, for a lot of traditional Jews, the Shidduch system is bizarre. It's just like, what, resumes? Like, it's so impersonal. Like, no, I'd rather like meet a girl because my friend recommended her, or my sister's friend, or whatever. And that's kind of how they see, and from a traditional lens. Hasidim use probably an even more intense version of the Shidduch system. They do what's called a basho. I'm not going to get into what a basho is right now. It's much more intense than a Shidduch system. Anyway, some alternate systems that are being used are singles events. So a singles event is exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of single guys and a bunch of single girls, and it's one evening, or sometimes it's an entire weekend where they're getting together. And again, it's like totally casual, you know, no touching is happening there. It's just a totally like modest scene, but you're being exposed to just a lot more people at the same time. And that is not used so often. From my understanding, it's becoming more and more accepted in the community, but from my understanding, it's generally actually, I think, discouraged for a lot of people, especially the more right you go in the yeshivish community. It's discouraged to go to singles events, I think. That's been my impression, and especially I think for younger people, are told basically not to go to these singles events. And that to me is just insanely unfortunate. I think that's wrong also, honestly. And then alternatively also, every once in a while you will like know a girl from, you know, let's say from a Shabbos meal, you eat by them and they're like family friends or something, and you guys meet and things take off from there. But that's also pretty rare, I think, and quite unusual. Most of the time it's through the Shidduch system. Anyways, so the pros of the Shidduch system. So the Shidduch system, and also this is true by the Hasidic system as well, it works incredibly well for what it's trying to do. Like, I have friends that have married their first date. You know what I mean? Like, they meet the girl the first time, and maybe they went out with them, who knows, 20 times, who knows? But they literally married the first girl that they went out with. And they're happy. You know what I mean? They're like really happy. And the reason is because you are matching two people with very similar backgrounds and very similar philosophical orientations. They are on the same page. You know what I mean? And people in the Jewish community, from my understanding, are growing up healthy and they're growing up secure, and communication is a big deal and values are a big deal, and like people are working together as a team, especially when I think the idea and the reason for getting married and having children, which is like pounded on us from like very young ages, is to do what's called chesed, and to be generous, basically, to do kindness for others. So when you have two people that really value being kind to the person that you are, like, meaning like my wife to me will be the person that I have the biggest obligation to be kind to. And when like you are raised with that value from a young age, and like you know, like, okay, this is my wife, now I have to appreciate her and like do things for her and do all this generosity and kindness for her, and she to me as well, and both of you are working as a team to help each other out. And like when you have kids, it's like it's about, you know, raising the kids properly, and like you have like a certain like moral compass that's like straight. That when you have that, you're obviously going to produce, or very likely I should say, going to produce a very healthy and happy marriage where people are you're just on the same page, you're communicating the same way, and all that, and it's beautiful. Yeah, and even people that did not marry their first girl, you know, there are people that married their second girl and their third girl that they dated, and vice versa for girls as well. There are girls that like within their first few they've gotten married, and that's like when you think about that, that's like bizarre. It's a really huge deal, and by and large the marriages are very successful. Okay, so some of the cons. I think some of the cons are that the system is extremely limiting. You basically are sitting down with this matchmaker who does not know you. You know, in some cases, if you're lucky and you happen to know a really popular matchmaker, you know, fine, they might know you really well and keep a good eye out for you. But most of the time, the matchmaker does not know you at all. You know what I mean? They barely know you. Maybe they just met you, and they're having a 15-minute conversation with you, max, about just kind of who you are and what you're looking for a little bit. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to try to match you with somebody you're supposed to be spending the rest of your life with. It comes across to me, and for a lot of people, it's very much shots in the dark, and it's a miracle. And a lot of people will even tell you like they don't necessarily even know how these matches happen. It kind of is a miracle, and a lot of it is just because people grew up in such a similar community and in such a same way where it's just like whatever, it makes sense. You know, the matchmaker maybe had like a slight glimpse of your personality, a slight glimpse of her personality, and something clicked, and like maybe this person was onto something, maybe they weren't. It's just incredibly limiting. You're limited by the Shadchan, who does not know you, who isn't necessarily going to send you the best matches, who doesn't even know everyone. How many people can a Shadchan possibly know? Let's say, like, if a Shadchan knows 100 people, like, that's a lot, right? So 50 of them are guys, 50 of them are girls, right? So, but they only know 50 potential matches for you at the end of the day. And there are thousands and thousands of people out there, tens of thousands. And it's like, they maybe only know 50. So it's like, it's just insanely limiting. Like, your options are completely reduced to to the Shadchan and their whims. And it's just like a really unfortunate system. And I think, like, also, especially for women have much less control because they're not getting the options. They're waiting for a guy to say yes before they're even given the option from a Shadchan. So they're kind of in the sidelines. You know, there's some girls that don't necessarily get an opportunity to go out with a guy for months. And that's really tough, you know, for them. I could just imagine it's much more difficult and frustrating. Me as a guy, if I'm ever frustrated, like, I could always just go to more Shadchanim, get more ideas, and, you know, shoot my shots, and whatever. Okay, so another con is that the system tends to be just insanely superficial. The reasoning for this is pretty obvious. You're reducing people to pieces of paper, right? You're looking at their resume. That's what you're getting first. And then maybe you're looking at their picture, right, if they provided one. And it's like that's all they become. And it's like there's a whole complex individual behind that, and it's very possible that if you sat in front of them and talked with them, you would love them. And I'm not saying like I'm such a saint. Like, I also say no to girls based on resumes and pictures all the time. I'm just pointing out that I think that when you're reducing people to pieces of paper, that's just natural. You know what I'm saying? Like, that it's just, you are going to treat them like pieces of paper because that's the only impression you have of them. And it's really, really, really unfortunate. When I talk about my personal experience, I think I'm going to get more in detail about how, I've been affected by this. Singles events seeks to combat that. But I think even an issue within singles events is that at a singles event, you're still only meeting 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, right? And you can't even talk to everyone there. And you're also limited by your own shyness if that's an issue for you. And it's just like, there are going to be people there that are hyper distracted. And it's like, it could be very difficult to be your best self at a certain singles event. And it's like, it's not like a casual, natural environment where it's just like, let's say you meet somebody in college and it's like the conversation sparks and things are just naturally escalating. And in conclusion, I just want to say that as beautiful as the Shidduch system is, and as much as it works for so many people, we actually need so much more. Singles events are not enough, and unfortunately, I think they're being discouraged for young people. I think everyone should really be more open-minded and create creative solutions. I'm not just talking about like the singles. I think that the Rebbeim and the Shadchanim need to really make an effort to talk people into being open-minded and trying out these new solutions. Like, I think as long as people are being respectful and appropriate, there's no reason to not try it. Like, this coddling of our generation, as I put it, like, I don't even know what the right words are, but it's like, it's viewed as almost a virtue, but it's honestly almost like limiting and sickening, if you ask me. I think we should be a little bit more ambitious, and we should be a little bit more open-minded and more the opposite of superficial. We should have more value for people and more respect for people. But guys, that's it for this week. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for part 2, where I talk about my own experience. Very exciting to bring that to the table.